Hello everyone, welcome to SHELO Mystics. Today's reading is for Aries. This is for your love reading for the month of July 2026. If you have been guided to this video, trust that there may be a message for you here today. Since this is a general reading, take what resonates with your situation and simply leave the rest. We will dive straight into the cards and allow the story to unfold naturally, explore the energies surrounding your love life and the person you're dealing with throughout the month of July. This reading resonates with you. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to SHELO Mystics. And if you like a personal reading, you can reach out to me at an email ID mentioned in the description below. Now, without further delays, let's begin your reading. Okay. Central issue is the King of Pentacles. Obstacles is Page of Swords. What are the hidden influences? As Four of Swords. What lies behind you in the past is Ace of Cups. What is the known influence is Ace of Wands. What lies before you or the near future is Three of Wands. How do you view yourself is the Tower. And how's the environment? King of Swords. What are your hopes and fears? Chariot. And what is the outcome of the situation? Four of Pentacles. And what is their action towards you? Five of Pentacles. And the spirit guidance is Two of Swords. Let me pull up clarifier for all of these. The clarifier for the central issue, King of Pentacles, is Page of Pentacles and Eight of Swords. The obstacles, Page of Swords, the clarifiers are Nine of Swords and Justice. The hidden influence is Four of Swords, and the clarifiers are Five of Swords and Temperance. What lies behind you in the past is Ace of Cups, and the clarifier is Four of Swords and Two of Swords. Known influence is Ace of Wands, and the clarifiers are Seven of Wands and Nine of Cups. What lies before you is Three of Wands, and the clarifiers are Chariot and Hanged Man. How do you view yourself in the situation as Tower? And the clarifiers are Knight of Swords and Magician. Your environment is King of Swords. Clarifiers are Page of Cups and Ace of Cups. Your hopes and fears are Chariot, clarified by Four of Cups and Six of Cups. The outcome is Four of Pentacles, clarified by Knight of Pentacles and Emperor. Aries, the energy at the heart of the connection is King of Pentacles. The spirit showed this connection was not casual or a short-lived connection. King of Pentacles is someone who values stability, loyalty, commitment, and long-term security. This card speaks about building a future together rather than chasing temporary excitement. So at the core of this relationship, there is a potential for something solid. But the spirit does not stop here. It clarifies why isn't the stability being fully manifested here. The Page of Pentacles here tells us either Aries or the person they are dealing with is still learning how to build this relationship. Page is the beginning of the journey. There is genuine willingness to invest, but there is also inexperience. This isn't the journey of someone who has mastered the relationship. This is energy of someone who is trying to understand what commitment truly requires here. The Eight of Swords, this changes the entire dynamics. The issue isn't the absence of commitments, it's the inability to move towards it. So your person kind of feel mentally restricted, they have self-doubts, feeling trapped by their own thoughts. So someone in this connection here wants the stability. It could be you wanting the stability, but unable to take the step because of the person you're dealing with, or because of their limiting behavior, or it just could be about you also. So this could be from the fear, uncertainty, the past experiences, believing there are no good options available. So that also can be like, keeping you stuck. So here we see there is a desire for something long term, there's willingness to learn, but the fear is also preventing the progress. This is why I don't see there is a lack of love in the center of this reading. I see a lack of confidence in how to move forward in this connection. Notice there is another pattern here. It begins with the earth energy, goes through the pentacle, which becomes practical, and the air energy here. The spirit shows there's a conflict with one person wanting to build and with their mind or their other person. The spirit showing there's a conflict with one person wanting to build and what their mind is allowing them to believe is possible here. The heart wants stability, the mind creates the kind of limitations here. So this becomes the foundation for the entire reading as we move into the obstacle position. Spirit explains that exactly why this mental restriction has become so strong. The Page of Swords is a clarifier, clarified by Nine of Swords and Justice. So this tells us that in the central issue, we had Page of Pentacles, we have Page of Swords as an obstacle here. Now, this is not a coincidence. The Page of Pentacles wants to build, Page of Swords wants to analyze the situation. The spirit shows the difference between the approaches to the same situation, where one wants the stability here and the other person keeps questioning every step before they take action. So you decide what is that applies to you. This is about the communication becoming cautious. Instead of openly expressing emotions, there is observation, hesitation, trying to understand everything before making a move, which is clarified by Nine of Swords. We understand why this Eight of Swords here kind of happened to appear in the first position. This shows about the mental restriction. It also shows there's an emotional consequences of remain trapped in those thoughts. So it's your person or you carrying this worry, guilt, anxiety, or fear about this connection. There may be sleepless nights, constant overthinking, replaying the past conversation, trying to understand what went wrong or what should happen next. We have justice. This tells me the person isn't simply overthinking for no reason. They're weighing the consequences. They don't want to make another mistake. They may be asking themselves, reaching out, is it the right thing to do? Whether to remain silent in the first choice or whether they're being fair to Aries and to themselves. The justice also brings accountability into the reading here. Sometimes we have to acknowledge that our own decision contributes to where the relationship stands today. The justice talks about both Aries and the person they're trying to deal with to look honestly at the situation without blaming one another. Now let's go back to the central issue here. The Eight of Swords shows the mind that's trapped, and Nine of Swords shows the same mind is becoming overwhelmed by worries. The spirit is repeating the sword energy here. Whenever the tarot repeats the suit, it is asking us to pay attention. Pentacle in position 1 shows that the relationship has potential, and the repeated swords now tells us that there's a greater challenge isn't about emotional incompatibility, it's about the mental conflict. The relationship isn't standing still because feelings are absent. It's standing still because the thoughts are louder than the emotions here. So this brings us naturally to the hidden influences, where the spirit explains us what has been happening beneath the surface. So the Four of Swords here, this is a beautiful card to continue the story the spirit has been building us. Notice how the sword has already repeated earlier the Page of Swords here, Page of Swords, Nine of Swords, and now there is a Four of Swords. This is not random. The spirit is emphasizing the biggest battle in this connection isn't taking place between Aries and the other person, it's taking place within the mind. It represents silence, withdrawal, healing, taking time to recover. This isn't the energy of giving up. This is the energy to step back because too much has happened emotionally or mentally. Now look at the clarifier here. Five of Swords. This explains that why the Four of Swords become necessary. The Five of Swords often follows a conflict, misunderstanding, or conversation where nobody truly felt heard. Whether there was an argument or simply unspoken tension, the relationship reached a point where continuing to push forward would only create more damage. So the spirit shows us the sequence. First, there was a conflict, then there was a distance, and the distance wasn't necessarily created to end the connection. This was to prevent the further damage. The temperance here, this is where the energy begins to soften. The temperance is one of the strongest healing cards in the tarot. It represents the patience, emotional balance, and bringing two opposite energies back into harmony. This tells me that there's a period of silence has a purpose here. Healing is taking place, even if Aries cannot yet see the results. Now let's look at the synchronicity for these three positions here. The card begins with the desire through stability with the King of Pentacles. The Spirit shows us repeatedly with the swords. Talks about the mental conflict. There's a delay that's about the stability, and there is temperance appears to show the solution. Spirit isn't asking Aries to force movement. Spirit is asking Aries to allow the healing to happen first. Without healing, the King of Pentacle here can never fully express itself. So Aries, here we do see this reading with the earth moves into a major arcana, the air, through temperance. We saw the reading started with the earth and then it moves into air and shows a major arcana through temperance. That tells me just another this isn't just another relationship challenge. This is a spiritual lesson in patience, emotional maturity, learning how to move beyond your fears. As we continue into the past position, the spirit brings us to reveal that why these fears are there in the first, and that silence entered the connection, linking everything we have seen so far into the one continuous story. So, what lies behind you is the Ace of Cups, clarified by Four of Swords and Two of Swords here. The spirit takes us to the past energy, explaining how this connection reached this current state. We see the Ace of Cups here. I absolutely see love here because it confirms something where really already began to suspect from the first reposition. This connection did not begin with confusion. This did not begin with distance. This began with the emotions here. It represents the openness, new love, a deep emotional connection, or the beginning of feeling that had the potential to grow into something more meaningful. This tells me that the Aries and the person they are dealing with shared something real. Whether the person was fully established or still developing, there was emotional sincerity here. But now, do you notice the Four of Sword appearing again here? It's in the hidden influence position earlier. Here. Okay. So represented by the current energy that's operating beneath the surface here. Now it returns again with this Ace of Cups in the past position. So the spirit is repeating the card for a reason. The first time we saw the Four of Swords, where we knew there was a silence and a healing taking place. Now tells us that where that silence began. That silence did not create the emotional distance. The silence came after the Ace of Cups. In other words, the love came first and the withdrawal came later. That completely changes the story here. The current silence is not the proof that love has disappeared. Instead, it tells us that something has happened after genuine emotions has already developed, forcing both Aries and the person they are dealing with to step back, process what they are feeling. There comes the Two of Swords. It explains why the silence kind of continues. This is a card of intercession here. It represents avoiding a difficult choices, postponing an important conversation, or feeling emotionally torn between two directions. When we connect all the three cards here, Spirit gives us a timeline. The connection began with openness, and then it was an emotional withdrawal through Four of Swords. Instead of resolving the issue, the relationship entered a period of indecision through Two of Swords. Notice another pattern here. This is now the fifth sword that we have seen in this reading. Earlier we saw Eight of Swords here, Nine of Swords, Page of Swords, and Four of Swords. Again, we are seeing Four of Swords again and Two of Swords. The Spirit is making us something very clear. The biggest challenge has never been the feelings, the biggest challenge has always been communication, perspective, and decision making here. Now let us move to the next position of the known influences. The Ace of Wands clarified by Seven of Wands and Nine of Cups. Now the energy kind of moves towards a shift. We move away from the cups and sword into the fire energy. The Ace of Wands, it's very exciting because it tells me that despite everything we have seen already, the spark between Aries and the person they are dealing with has not disappeared. There's still attraction, there's still desire, there's still has the feelings that the relationship has unfinished business. So this isn't the energy of two people who become emotionally indifferent. The attraction remains alive, however, the Spirit immediately clarifies the Ace of Wands with the Seven of Wands here. It tells me, though the attraction is present, one person is still protecting themselves, they're standing their ground, they're emotionally guarded, they're not willing to lower their defense until they feel safe again. This makes perfect sense. When we connect it with the previous positions, we have already seen repeated swords representing the mental conflict in all of these positions. We have already seen the Four of Swords repeating twice. That's like tells us the healing becomes necessary. Naturally, the emotional walls would still exist. Then comes the Nine of Cups here. And I think this is one of the most reassuring cards in the reading. Nine of Cups is what about tells us about the wish fulfillment, emotional satisfaction, and the desire to experience happiness. Now let's see what the Ace of Cups from the past here. It shows that where the emotions begin, and the Ace of Wands here now shows that the passion is still alive. So the Spirit is separating these two different aspects of the relationship. The Ace of Cups, where emotions was real, and the attraction and the desire haven't disappeared either. So both the emotional connection and chemistry continues to exist. What stands between them is the repeated, like both are repeated swords energy. Again, Spirit bring us back to the same lesson. The relationship isn't the lack of feeling, it's struggling to move from fear and hesitation. Now the reading naturally moves into the near future, where we finally begin to see where this energy starts changing. In the near future, we have Three of Wands clarified by Chariot and Hanged Man. So after so many swords, emotional processing, so we see the Three of Wands tells us the energy is finally beginning to expand. So this is about looking ahead in the future, talks about waiting for progress, preparing for the next chapter, beginning to see there's a possibility that previously felt out of reach. So, but the Spirit does not promise any results immediately. Instead, it says that there's a movement in the beginning given by Chariot. It's a determination, that is the movement after a period of delay chooses the direction of being remain stuck, and this is about particularly significant because almost every previous position has shown hesitation, silence, or indecision. This breaks the pattern here. It tells me that either Aries or the person they're dealing with begins moving towards a decision, remaining instead of remaining trapped in uncertainty that we saw in this core decision here. So it is also an hanged man. These two cards seems to be contradicting to one another initially, where the chariot wants movement and the hangman asks us to pause. I don't see them as an opposite, I see them as a sequence. A meaningful moment can happen. Someone needs to completely have a different perspective. So the way the hanged man here changes the situation as how it is viewed. Once that shift in perspective happens, the chariot as a clear direction now points us to another synchronicity here. In the past position, we saw two of swords here. So whereas the indecision kind of prevented the progress, now we see the chariot and it shows there is a growth. So the indecision from the past does not necessarily define the future. There's also another pattern. The reading started with the earth energy here, dominated by the air energy, and now the fire energy that we saw through this, and it is again movement through the chariot energy is what we see here. The emotional heaviness kind of starts lifting. That does not mean everything is instantly kind of resolved, because Hanged Man here reminds us that patience is still required. But unlike this Four of Swords here, which tells us that healing presents through withdrawal, and the hangman represents the healing through understanding. So these are two different lessons. As we move to the second half of this part of Celtic Cross, the spirit shift the focus from the relationship itself to the person they're dealing with and how the energy is being shaped the outcome of this connection. Aries, how do you view yourself in this position? The current energies, you're approaching this connection is the tower. Before anyone becomes alarmed, let's understand what tower actually means in this position. Tower is not always about the ending. It's more often than not, it represents the truth that can no longer be ignored. It breaks down the illusion, false expectations, and the old ways of thinking so that something more authentic can take place here. So, considering everything that we have seen so far, this makes more perfect sense. The central issue that we showed has the long term potential with the help of this King of Pentacles here. But the mental restriction through Eight of Swords that we saw, the obstacles again, talking about this repeated swords energy, overthinking, fear, and the hidden influence was talking about the healing and after conflict. Now, Tower tells us the Aries is reaching a point where continuing to hold on to the old patterns is no longer possible. So, something inside you has to change, either the thinking, the perspective, or how you connect to the situation or the relationship. We do see the Knight of Swords clarifying. You want to move quickly towards the truth. This is no longer about the waiting endlessly, pretending everything to be fine. You want clarity, you want honesty, you want to know where things of this relationship truly stands here. The Magician here tells us that why this tower energy is present. Magician reminds the Aries that their personal power has not been lost. And so instead of waiting for the circumstance to change on their own, Aries is beginning to realize that intention, communication, and personal choice all shapes the future. Notice another progress. Earlier we had Page of Pentacles here, which kind of talked about the learning, the base position. Now you have Magician representing the mastery of it. The spirit shows there is a personal growth for it. So whatever you're thinking where about, you entered a relationship, hoping, dreaming. So you wanted to learn about the situation. Now you have seen a lot of things that is happening here. Mental conflicts, stability, stagnation is, there's a lot of stagnation, lacking stability. So the challenges, the Aries is no longer the same person. So challenges that you have experienced through this relationship has transformed you into someone who understands your worth more clearly here. The tower breaks down what no longer serves you. Maybe by then you're already exhausted, you're tired, and you want to build your own place, something stronger. And this transformation becomes important because the next position reveals the surrounding energy. The Ace of Cup again gets repeated here. So your environment talks about immediately presence. You want to appear logical, disciplined, and emotionally reserved. May not be expressing feelings openly. Instead of you analyzing the situation carefully, acting or speaking about it. So how many swords cards that we have already appeared through this reading? So we see that the person is thinking far more than they are expressing. The spirit tells us immediately to soften the energy with the Page of Cups here. However, the spirits immediately softens this energy with the Page of Cups because it's somebody who can be very detached. So there is openness, sincere communication, an apology or a message that comes from the heart. Then comes something that I want every Aries to watch this reading notice. The Ace of Cup appears again. But earlier we saw this in a past position. Now we see it again. It represents the genuine emotions that there is an emotional opening. Now it is returning to the environment position. It is extremely significant here. It tells us that in the emotions which was created, the relationship has not kind of disappeared. They have existed beneath the controlling behavior of the kings here. The controlling behavior of a king here also. So this changes our understanding of the King of Swords completely. Without the Ace of Cups, the king might kind of appear emotionally unavailable. But with this, the card, we see that the spirit is showing that emotions are still present, but they are simply protected. There's a nice contrast. So the Aries is represented by Tower. There is internal transformation that is happening. The other person's energy is represented here, kind of like King of Swords. It's representing expressing emotional control. So both are changing. So simply there is a change in a different way. It's another beautiful progress that happens here. Earlier we saw there is Page of Pentacles here in the first one. Also we see here the Page of Cups. There's a practical learning that was evolving in this low emotional expression now. The relationship is gradually moving away from fear towards vulnerability. And whereas we see here with respect to the hopes and fears, what does Aries think about it? So again, we saw this chariot here in the future position. That's the hopes and fear also being represented. So whenever the major arcana is repeated, uh, play pay close attention. The earlier chariot appeared here, and now it's appearing again in the hopes and fears. This is not an accident. We do see the near future. The chariot position told us here the moment was approaching. This tells that the moment is also what Aries deeply desire. The spirit is mirroring the future with Aries' heart. It tells me that instinctively that Aries feel this connection still has to go somewhere. The clarifier reveals that why does it happen. It speaks about the emotional disappointment, worrying about the opportunity may be missed. Perhaps Aries kind of are afraid that there's too much time has passed. The silence has changed everything. We still have the Six of Cups. It represents the memory, emotional familiarity, meaningful connection. It often appears when two people have shared experiences that continue influencing the present. Now let's connect back to this Ace of Cups here in the past. So the emotion begins, and we do see the Six of Cups here. Tells us that the memories continues to influence the both the people. It's not simple nostalgia, it's the emotional history that kind of still matters. So the past is not being forgotten, it is still shaping the future. The outcome, we see the Four of Pentacles clarified by Knight of Pentacles and Emperor. The Four of Pentacles is often misunderstood. Many people think they are holding back, but in the relationship reading, we see that it's also represents holding on, refusing to let go of something valuable. This is immediately connected to the first card of the reading, the King of Pentacles, which kind of represented the stability here. Now, the Four of Pentacles shows that preserving that stability, it is reinforced by the Knight of Pentacles, the same message. Notice another progress. At the beginning, we had Page of Pentacles in this position here, and then we have the Knight of Pentacles. So, the spirit is showing the growth. The relationship has moved from learning into the action. Thus, even though it is a slower action, this is an action card. So, this may move slowly, but this steps also is very intentional. There we have Emperor, the Aries. This card carries extra significance because traditionally associated with Aries energy. We see the cards, the reading started with King of Pentacles and ending with Emperor. Both represents maturity, responsibility, long-term commitment, and this is a remarkable progress. Spirit isn't moving this relationship towards emotional chaos, it's moving towards greater structure, accountability, and stability. The pace may be slow, but the direction is slowly becoming increasingly solid. What is their action towards you? Five of Pentacles clarified by Six of Wands and Four of Wands. So, this is probably the position many Aries have been waiting for. At first glance, the Five of Pentacles here appears to be very discouraging. It represents the emotional distance, feeling left out, or recognizing that relationship has experienced the hardship. But remember something important. Every position in this must be connected. The Five of Pentacles is not appearing by itself. It is clarified by two incredible powerful cards here. Six of Wands, which represents the recognition, success, and desire to overcome difficulties. Then comes the Four of Wands here. One of the strongest card for stability, reunion, building a secure foundation. So the person currently feels where they stand. This tells Six of Wands tells us they want to overcome the separation. The Four of Wands tells us the direction their action are moving towards. The spirit consistently repeats one message. This relationship continues to return to stability rather than ending. There is another numerological synchronicity that we see here. That is something to do with the Four of Swords here. Four of Swords, we have Four of Pentacles, and here we have Four of Wands. 444. So the 4 is the number of foundation. Okay. Spirit keeps emphasizing on the stability, not impulsiveness, nothing to do with the chaotic energy. This is more to do with the foundation, with the slow intentional process. And finally, coming to the advice, Two of Swords clarified by Two of Wands and Death. The Spirit concludes the reading by bringing us to one final lesson. So this represents the indecision, now shows a remarkable. Now notice something remarkable. Earlier in the past position here, we had Two of Swords, explaining why this connection became stuck. Now it returns as an advice. The spirit is saying the same lesson cannot continue. And the indecision served a purpose in the past. Okay? Because healing was necessary. But it cannot become a permanent way of approaching this relationship. Now, Two of Wands. Unlike the Two of Swords, which avoids choosing, Two of Wands begins planning for the future. This is the growth. Spirit is showing exactly what transformation needs to happen. Move from uncertainty into a vision. Is it individually or about the relationship? You need to have a plan for yourself first. Then comes the death. Because if it is only relationship where you can control, you can achieve this growth. When it involves another person, there's always something that you have to rely on others. And then comes the death here. This is not about the physical ending, this is about the transformation. The spirit asking you to release an outdated fear, old expectations, or the pattern that no longer supports this connection. Now let's look at this entire spread one final time, whereas the reading began with the King of Pentacles here. Okay, this ends with the Emperor energy. All right. So both speaks about the maturity, and we do see the repeated sword energy telling us about the fear, overthinking that creates delays, and the Four of Sword repeating. All right. This talks about the healing becomes necessary after the emotional conflict. Ace of Cups also appearing twice does talk about the genuine openness. Emotions do exist from the past and continues to exist beneath the surface for today. And also we do have Chariot repeating twice, yeah. The Chariot appearing one in the near future and then again in the hopes tells us that the progress Aries desire is also the progress spirit is showing. Okay, so this reading is not about the love disappearing. This reading is about the relationship that has been slowed by fear, silence, healing, one that still carries the potential to move towards the greater stability if both Aries and the person you're dealing with continues growing beyond the pattern that once kept you apart. I do see kind of being able to achieve stability. Aries, you're no longer in the same place you were once. You have grown, you have learned. Now you stand at a point where you can either repeat the past or create something entirely different. The power is to shift the dynamics and does not sit out of you. So it sits very much with you. Speak what you know and allow the transformation that has already begun to guide you forward. The story is not over yet. It is simply entering a new chapter where reconciliation is possible if both hearts are ready to meet each other with truth and intention. Okay, that's something that is a scope we saw. If the message resonated with you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to SHELO Mystics so you don't miss the future readings. And as always, trust your intuition, stay grounded in your truth, and allow the spirit to guide your path. Until next time, take care and stay aligned.